everywhere. GBS.
What a pleasant day to see you today again as we go through the ambassador. And today we are going to start with day 3 of Kenya's visit to the United States. We are going to see more deeper as it took a twist. As Kenya is designated to be a major NATO ally, they are expecting US to designate them as a major NATO ally, as well as relieve them of their debts. Also, Kenya and the US are marking their 60th anniversary of the diplomatic relations at the White House. Officials of the leaders' agenda, which will include trade and investment, technology, innovation, climate and clean energy, health and education, besides cooperation. Listen in.
And Mr. President, under your leadership, we believe that as we celebrate these 60 years of relationship between our two countries, we also celebrate the opportunities that come with the friendship that exists between our two countries. And as you have said correctly, the space around artificial intelligence, space around cybersecurity, and investments that come with it, we are expanding our footprint in the digital space. We are rolling out 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic in Kenya and connecting every ward and every village to a fiber backbone to make sure that e-commerce, digital jobs, and digital learning, we can access to every child in Kenya. And we are very proud that we are going to work with American companies. Last month, Secretary Raimondo was in Kenya, and we agreed with.
Well, good afternoon. This is the ambassador with me, Ambassador Jennifer Makau. Now, moving on, during the 3-day visit by the Kenyan President William Ruto to the United States, President Joe Biden also expected to designate Kenya as a major non-NATO ally, this making Kenya the first sub-Saharan African country to receive such a designation. The designation reflects a deepening relationship between the United States and Kenya, as Kenya has had a long and across relations with Russia and China, but the United States is looking into strengthening its ties with the African nation. Listen in.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and on behalf of my delegation and I, in a very special way, thank you for extending an invitation to me to undertake this state visit. I bring you very warm greetings from the people of Kenya and our brothers and sisters from across the continent. And I undertake this state visit on the background of 60 years of solid friendship between the United States and Kenya.
Hello everyone, it's great to be here. Secretary Raimondo, thank you for the update you gave us, and I want to thank all the folks around this table for prioritizing a partnership that I think is really, really important and will deliver dividends for both our countries. And finally, Mr. President, I can't thank you, think of a better way to kick off this visit. When I visited Nairobi as Vice President, I said that the true strength of Kenya was its people, and the students, workers, founders, activists, and innovators, entrepreneurs, and so many people like you who really do depend on democracy and support democracy.
Thank you.
And today, as we honor 60 years of ties between our countries, it's clear that our people are the true strength of this partnership, and a partnership that's working well. Nowhere is it more important than in the realm of innovation. That's why we have so many business leaders around this table, from Silicon Valley to Silicon Savannah. Our people have brought us forward and they've pioneered new technologies that are transforming millions of lives. I mean, literally millions of lives, and it's going to go beyond that. And we've invested in new industries that have generated billions of dollars economically, and they've created new opportunities that have lifted up our countries across both our continents. And our people and our innovators have also brought together, we are all excited about this.
Now let's check on the wide range of issues also, which were much of anticipation in the discussion of the two state leaders. We are talking of President Ruto of Kenya and the United States President Joe Biden during their meetings, ranging from a number of topics including trade, debt relief for Kenya and the situations in Haiti, Ukraine and Sudan. The U.S. also pledged $250 million in the new investments for Kenya through the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. The United States as well is urging China and other creditors to offer Kenya a debt relief. Kenya recently agreed to send police officers to Haiti and to help quell the gang violence, but later paused the deployment. The talks will also be covered in the range of other issues, including cooperation on Haiti, Ukraine, Sudan, and other global challenges. Here is more.
Forefront of forging regional and global cooperation, which has expanded our role in pursuing sustainable peace, both regionally and internationally. Since independence, Kenya has participated in 49 peace support missions worldwide. Following UN Security Council Resolution 2699 of 2023, we are leading the multinational security support mission, driven by our firm belief that the responsibility to support Haiti lies with all nations and peoples who value self-determination, freedom, peace, and democracy.
Suffering. And we embrace nations stepping up to lead new ways and to seek new breakthroughs on hard issues. For example, on Haiti, the Caribbean community is facilitating a dialogue among Haitian society. I thank President Ruto of Kenya, I thank him for his willingness to serve as the lead nation of a UN-backed security support mission. I call on the Security Council to authorize this mission now. The people of Haiti cannot wait much longer.
It is worth noting that the designation as a major non-NATO ally is seen as a way to formalize Kenya's growing role as a security partner for the United States. Reflecting the growing closeness between the United States and Kenya on security issues, this comes as the U.S. seeks to strengthen ties and its relations with Kenya, a key African partner. Listen in. Now, so to speak for Africa, some experts stated that Ruto visit would also be an opportunity for him to speak for the Africa as a whole, pardon the pun, as Kenya acting as a gateway for Africa, given that President Biden has visited Africa yet. This meeting seen as a chance to discuss the broader United States and the Africa relationship. Here is more.
Today, countries like Kenya borrow in the financial markets 8 times more in interest than other countries. And that is the case for most African countries. We are saying the Congressional Black Caucus, this great institution, the American Congress, should lead the way in making sure that the international financial architecture, the World Bank, the IMF, multilateral development banks, are fashioned in a manner that gives every country a chance to borrow concessional resources so that we can develop our countries and we can deal with the effects of climate change, of floods, of drought. And that no country spends more money servicing debt than paying for healthcare or education or social services for their citizens. The World Bank and IMF are doing what they can. I have tremendous respect for Ajay Banga, and I have tremendous respect for Kristalina. But this Congress, ladies and gentlemen, we request you. And I was asked specifically to ask the American Congress to double its contribution to IDA, the concessional window of the World Bank that makes sure that countries like Kenya can have resources not 8 times more expensively, but as the same as others.
Now, do we say Kenya is a gateway for Africa? Also, Kenya trade relationship with the United States under the African Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA, has been a cornerstone for economic growth and development through AGOA, set up to expire in 2025, leaving the future of this pivotal trade agreement in the spotlight. Accompanying Kenya President William Ruto in his state visit to the United States was the Trade Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano, underscoring Kenya's desire for an extension of AGOA until 2041. And at least 2 people were killed at a strong winds from the tropical cyclone Ayali that hit various parts of the Kenyan coast. Victims, including a people aged 4 years, that were killed after the strong winds hit the Gugaruhe Mosque. We are talking of the Gogorahue Mosque, destroying the roof. The ECD school was about 4 p.m. GMT. Police who responded to the scene stated 5 people were rushed to the Mariakani Sub-County Hospital, where 1 of the female pupils succumbed to the injuries, while 4 others were admitted in various head injuries. This is more to the story.
A childhood education pupil in Kaloleni, Kilifi County has died after he was hit by a flying iron sheet caused by strong winds witnessed at the coast. The roof of Gagararuhe Mosque injured 6 children. The strong winds was as a result of Tropical Storm Iyali, whose effects are being felt at the Kenyan coast. The county mashinani rally at Chumani Matangoni ward.
Hii mambo ya upepo, kuna miti ya stima imeanguka, lakini pale Mariakani ECD moja imetoka mabati, imeua mtoto mmoja, 4 wako seriously injured.
Following the death of the learner, Governor Mungaro has ordered temporary closure of all ECD centers for 1 week to monitor the heavy wind situation.
Wacha kuanzia Jumatatu, leo juma ngapi? Leo ni Jumanne. Kuanzia kesho shule zote za ECD, kila mtandao mtakaweza kutumia zifungwe mpaka wiki ijayo, kwa sababu na watoto wasiruhusiwe kukaa karibu na mashule. Sasa hii tayari ripoti tuko nayo ni hao watoto wa Mariakani, Huduma Center Kilifi, nusu ya parking yao imeenda, magari yameharibika kwa wingi, stima imeanguka ya electricity huko, mchunge mkitembea. Takaungu imefungika sasa, hii miti imeangushwa na upepo.
In the neighboring Rabais Mwele area, the winds blew away the roof of a godown. The chaos left 2 employees at Salima Gases Kenya Limited seriously injured. They were rushed to the hospital, where 1 succumbed to his injuries.
Hakukuwa na watu ndani. Hata ilikuwa kuna hali ya kuwa lifanywe renovations, ndio lianze kufanya kazi ya kununua nafaka za wananchi. Sasa upepo umekuja kurudisha tena nyuma mambo kabisa. Kwa sasa huwezi kadiria vile, lakini haikosi kama hasara ya kama 300,000 hivi 5.
In Mombasa, the roof of a structure at the Mbaraki Girls Comprehensive School was blown away by the winds. The Kenya Meteorological Department warned of potential destruction to marine activities caused by Tropical Cyclone Iyali. In a marine update issued Wednesday evening, the cyclone had dissipated, with the system filling up during the day. According to the weatherman, It will be remembered as the most northerly tropical cyclone, reaching 4.7 degrees south. At its last observation, Iyali had maximum winds of 55 kilometers per hour and a maximum gust of 75 kilometers per hour, with an estimated pressure at the center of 1002 HPA. The storm's position was at 2.9 degrees south, 42.7 degrees east, moving northeast at 6 kilometers per hour. Susan Nganga.
Our condolences go to the family now. Moving on to South Africa, the former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, has been barred from vying for presidential elections by the South African court ahead of the critical elections on May 29th, raising more political tensions. Zuma, who also led the African National Congress, ANC, until 2017, was barred participating in the elections based on the constitutional clause that stated anyone sentenced for a period of 12 months or more could be allowed to vie for any political position. Here is more on the same.
The former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, has been barred from vying for presidential seat by the South African courts ahead of the critical elections on May 29th, raising political tensions in the country. Zuma, who led the African National Congress, also abbreviated as ANC until 2017, was barred from participating in the elections basing on the constitutional clause that states that anyone sentenced for a period of 12 months or more cannot be allowed to vie for any political position in South Africa.
Section 41E of the Constitution disqualifies an individual from being a member of the National Assembly if they have been convicted of an offence and sentenced to more than 12 months imprisonment without the option of a fine. It says that Mr. Zuma was convicted of an offence, contempt of court, and was sentenced to more than 12 months imprisonment without the option of the fine. Therefore, so says the Commission, from the clear language of the section, he is disqualified.
Zuma resigned as president in 2018 amid corruption allegations, and he re-entered politics last year with a new party, Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, criticizing the ANC and President Cyril Ramaphosa. The upcoming election is seen as pivotal, potentially making the most significant political shift since the end of apartheid in South Africa. He has accused the courts for banning him for running for presidency and is expected to give a direction to his.
Now let's move on to Chad, as in a significant political development. Chad Prime Minister and opposition leader Success Masra on Wednesday tendered his resignation following the confirmation of interim President Mahamat Idris Deby Itno as the winner of the May 6th presidential election. Masra, who has been a vocal critic to the junta, took the power in 2021 and was appointed as the Prime Minister in January as a part of an effort to palisade the opposition. Before the official results were announced, Masra claimed victory and accused the authorities of planning electoral fraud. However, Chad's Electoral Commission declared Deby the winner with 61% of the vote through the Constitutional Council, subsequently confirming Deby's victory. Deby's win extended the power of his family, which has ruled Chad since Deby's father seized power in the early 1990s. Here is more. And that international news brings us to our first break. There is more coming up for you. Next, we'll talk about the Palestinian that was considered a state by Norway, Ireland, and Spain as an issue that sparked controversy, while Blinken was called the butcher of Gaza. And during a Senate budget hearing, they said if they come for Israel, we are next. We are talking of the lawmakers that told Blinken concerning the ICC sanctions case, and we'll also check on the multiple declared dead, dozens injured in the Greenfield tornado that ripped through the Iowa, among other stories. We have this and more lined up for you shortly after the break. Stay tuned with us.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
죄를
sins.
지셨고
He carried our sins,
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins,
무덤에 들어가셨다가
and he was put into the tomb
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
About how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being
우리
crucified.
죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Everywhere. GBS.
Now, welcome back. You are still watching the Ambassador GBS Global, and we are glad to have you join us today. Now, as we continue, a state funeral for the Iran's late president, foreign minister, and other officials attended by 7 dozen leaders from across the world. During the memorial service that was held in Tehran on Wednesday, the ceremony was held hours after hundreds of thousands of people took part in the funeral procession in the Iranian capital for Ibrahim Raisi and others that were killed in the Sunday incident, including Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian. Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his condolences on Tuesday following the death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, describing Raisi as a very reliable partner and commending his integrity, asserting he was a man of his word and it was a pleasure working with him. Putin shared these sentiments during the meeting with Senate Duma Speaker. We are talking of Volodin, who was said to represent Russia at the Raisi's funeral in Tehran. He emphasized Russia's commitment to maintaining strong relations with Iran, affirming they will do everything to ensure Russian-Iran relations, and continue in his vein, insisting that this word should be conveyed to the Iran's leadership. Iran on Thursday prepared the enter into the late president of the holiest site for the Shiite Muslims in the Islamic Republic, a final sign of respect for the protege of Iran's supreme leader. His remains will be interred in his hometown Mashhad in the northeast of the country. Here is more.
He was a very reliable partner, a straightforward, self-confident man, above all, a man who was guided by national interest. He was a man of his word, and it was a pleasure to work with him. If we agreed on something, we could always be sure that the agreement would be fulfilled. For our part, we will do everything to ensure that Russian-Iranian relations continue in this vein. Please convey these words to the Iranian leadership, and if our colleagues require so, we are ready to do everything to provide them what they need.
Now let's move to the case of Singapore, as authorities in Singapore launched an investigation following a tragic incident on the board through Singapore Airlines flight SQ321, which was traveling from London to Singapore, encountering severe turbulence over the Andaman Sea on Tuesday. One passenger tragically died and dozens more were injured during the turbulence over the Boeing 777 carrying 229 people on board, dropping rapidly and prompting the pilot to divert to Bangkok for medical attention. Hospitals in Bangkok reported treating 85 people, with 27 released and 20 remaining in intensive care, and the injured including passengers from various countries, including Britain, Malaysia, and Australia, and Singapore as well. Singapore Airlines CEO Goh Kon Pong issued a video apology for the traumatic experience of the passengers that endured. Here is more.
Saddened by this incident. It has resulted in one confirmed fatality and multiple injuries. Singapore Airlines will continue to extend all possible support to them. We are fully cooperating with the relevant authorities on the investigations.
Well, now moving on from Singapore, let us go to Washington, D.C. As in Washington, D.C., a Senate budget hearing was interrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters condemning U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken for his stance on Gaza conflict interruptions, occurring as Blinken presented the State Department's of the fiscal year in 2025 budget request. During his opening statement at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing, the Secretary of the State met with a loud protest through the demonstrator, accusing Blinken of being the butcher of Gaza and responsible for murdering innocent of Palestinian security. As quoted to the prosecutors out, another person repeatedly labeled Blinken as a war criminal. The disruptions come amid its ongoing criticism of the U.S. policy towards the Israel and the Gaza conflict. The Biden administration has defended Israel's right to self-defense while also expressing concerns about the proposed military interventions in Rafah, a densely populated area where 1.4 million people are currently sheltering. Here is more.
You may proceed as you wish, and we look forward to a robust discussion.
The need for U.S. global leadership and for cooperation with allies and partners has never been greater. The People's Republic of China is pursuing...
Raqqa was 6 years old when Israelis killed her! His Raqqa was 6 years old! Blinken, you will be remembered as the butcher of Gaza! You will be remembered for murdering innocent Palestinians!
The person, will the officer please remove the person who's making these comments?
As I was saying, the People's Republic of China...
He is a war criminal! The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands! The blood of 40,000 Palestinians is on his hands! He is a war criminal! He is a war criminal! Blinken is a war criminal! The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands!
Mr. Secretary, you may continue.
We need to keep up this momentum. That requires a State Department budget that we fully resource in order to meet the challenges of our time. The President's FY25 budget...
Funding a genocide in Gaza. There have been 7 mass graves outside of hospitals. This is sick. This is deranged. You are a war criminal. Shame on you.
It funds the essential missions of our department and USAID. The budget will ensure that the United States continues to be the partner of choice that countries turn to when they need to solve big problems. In an era of renewed great power competition, we must present the strongest possible offer, one that's relevant and responsive to countries' needs, and that advances our security and economic interests. That's why we're requesting $2 billion for a new fund to build high-quality, sustainable infrastructure around the world. Crucially, investments like these create jobs for Americans. They expand markets for our businesses. We're requesting resources for the World Bank. With $1 billion in U.S. funding, we can unlock another $36 billion in development fund capacity to direct to the top priorities of emerging economies. That is an enormous return on our investment and essential for competing with China around the world.
Well, that was quite dramatic. Now, let us move on. As in a recent Senate Committee of Foreign Relations budget hearing in Washington, D.C., U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham asked Secretary of State, that is also Antony Blinken, to support sanctions on the International Criminal Court, ICC, emphasizing on the need to express displeasure with the ICC following its controversial decisions. The call for sanctions followed the ICC prosecutor Karim Khan's announcement on Monday to seek arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and Hamas leaders. We are talking of Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Diab and Ismail Haniyeh on charges of war crimes. Netanyahu condemned the ICC sanctions, calling them absurd and false, labeling the move as anti-Semitic and a complete distortion of reality. Hamas also criticized the ICC, accusing it of equating victims with aggressors. Now, the ICC decision poses a significant travel restrictions for the involved Israeli Hamas leaders, making it challenging to visit any of the 124 countries that are party to the court, including major allies like the United Kingdom and Germany. Here is more.
Offering condolences to the passing of the president of Iran, Mr. Raisi. He died in a helicopter crash. He was a protege of the supreme leader who earned his nickname, the Butcher of Tehran, for his role in mass executions of thousands in 1988. His tenure as president was marked by the brutal repression of women and girls, the enrichment of uranium, a violent crackdown on mass protest in 2022, and direct attacks on Israel from Iranian soil. I'd like to offer my condolences to the victim of the Butcher of Tehran. To the Iranian people, we stand with you and hope and pray for the day of your liberation comes from the Ayatollah and his henchmen.
Security's supplemental appropriations bill that provides aid to Ukraine.
In the middle of all this, the International Criminal Court, out of nowhere, decided to indict or issue an arrest warrant for the Prime Minister of Israel, an elected leader by one of the most robust democracies on the planet. If you don't like the government in Israel, stick around. They change every 3 or 4 months. They have one of the most robust judiciaries anywhere on the planet, known for their...
Well, and that news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global News. It's been a pleasure having you on board, joining us to the end. We will keep you more updated here at the Ambassador, where we bring you the latest developments as you keep it locked with us. Have been your ambassador, Jennifer Macau, and I'm looking forward to seeing you same time tomorrow from Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. And may you all have a superb and the most beautiful and a wonderful afternoon. See you then.
Everywhere, GBS.